Hi everybody, welcome to the Evans Central Christmas Lights behind the scenes video for 2021. Apologies if there's a bit of wind noise. If it's too bad, I'll be overdubbing this. So we took last year off amid all the COVID bits and pieces and just really didn't feel like doing anything, but we've come back this year bigger and better than ever. So we've got a lot more props, as regular viewers might have already noticed, and I thought this video will just go through just a quick overview of all the props and the pixels that we use in the display this year. The size of the entire show has grown to 6,000, just over 6,000 pixels, not including the panels. So individual nodes, there's 6,038 of them. Mostly 5 volt, but still some 12 volt kicking around until they give up the ghost, and then I'll probably end up converting to 5 volt as well. So without further ado, we'll take you through some of the props. Let's starting with the mini trees here from Extreme Lighting Displays up in Sydney. Thank you to Troy for cutting these and sending these out. So the trees themselves are 50 nodes each, and they're only 180 degrees, so they don't go all the way around. There's no real point in, given the orientation of this display. The stars on top are 20 nodes each, so they're looking at 280 nodes across those 4 trees. They're just secured by cable ties to that board on the base there. If I need to get in and out of the garage, it's pretty quick and easy just to pick up that whole thing, just move it up out of the way, and put it back when we need to. Also new for this year is our Tune 2 sign display board. This is 4 P5 panels in a 2x2 configuration, in a wooden box and covered in some thin plastic, and also a Coro protection on the back. Turn around camera. Whoa. So Coro protection there, so it's basically watertight in the rain, so I can leave this out the whole time. So driving those panels is a Raspberry Pi and a Octoscroller cape on top of it. I just plug in the main power, or supply main power to it, and FPP just does its thing. It just turns on straight away and just starts looping the 30-second sequence that I've got, which is the Tune 2 information and links to the Facebook page and about our collection for the Kmart wishing tree this year, which has been going pretty well this year. The little speaker here, which is turned down very low, and that's just to for anyone who's just walking by can hear the audio, but that is connected to stereo in the garage, which is picking up the broadcast that the show goes from. So most people, they're tuning up in their cars and they can just tune in to the radio that way. The candy canes are back this year. There's a 5 volt nodes, there's 48 pixels in each cane, and we've got 6 of those across the front of the display, so that's a total of 288 nodes that we're using across those. Next to those, some air cedar tubing for arches. This has 12 volt pixel strip in it, which surprisingly, touch wood, has actually lasted this year. I haven't needed to do any running repairs on them, but they're pretty well protected where they are from the elements. So the tubes are 2.6 meters long. I'm definitely overdubbing this, there's too much noise in the background. There's 2.6 meters of tubing here, but 2.5 meters of the actual strip in there, because you need a little bit extra space and clearance down the bottom, so that when you plug the feet in, you don't cover up the last pixel in there. And they're just it's just electrical conduit. Those feet cross pieces I just take out and put all in a bag, and there's just a little tent pegs that just hold them in place. So 4 tent pegs hold each arch in place, and they don't go anywhere. We've had a lot of strong winds this year, earlier in December, and they haven't moved a millimetre. They have not gone anywhere, so they've been really good. Underneath the arches are some Coro stars that I made many years ago, starting to show some age now, but still pretty much working. It's just 3 of those 12 volt modules each. A couple of them are dropped a couple of colours per module, but they don't light up very bright in amongst everything else, but you get the general idea of what's happening with them, so they're still working. Over to near the mega tree, so underneath the mega tree we've got some Coro presents that I made up. So there's a large group of 3, that's all one unit there. That's got 32 of those. Again, these 12 volt modules that are in the stars. There's less bird crap on the ones in the Coro presents, but there's those 12 volt modules in those. There's 32 of those, and then those 3 little smaller presents, there's 8 each in those. And where that's just some grey electrical tape that's on the front of them to make them look more like presents during the day, but it helps divide where the Coro sections are in the back of them, and I can actually individually program each little quadrant of each of those presents to light up differently. So rather than just every box is the same colour, you can do some nice little patterns with those. They are sitting in front of course, our mega tree, which has the star has seen better days because of those winds I was talking about earlier. It's on a bit of a lean and pointing down towards the crowd, but it's still holding on, and we've managed to not lose any of the strands during the winds this year, which has been pretty good. The tree itself is 20 strands. There's 42 nodes on each of those strands going up and down in a zigzag pattern, so that's a total of 840 nodes across the entire tree. It's not 360, we're only doing around 200 degrees, so it doesn't go all the way around. We're not a corner block, or we haven't got a wide frontage of traffic going past us, so as you can see, it kind of only needs to go around a little bit to each side, because most of the viewing angle is over on this side here. I intend to change the mechanics, if you like, of the tree next year. It's pretty hard to put up and take down, particularly because it's literally just one solid pole with all the pixels and strands mounted onto it. It's very, very tough to get in place, so planning to change that to either a tilt or a winch style setup. I might just go onto the lawn and show you one of the controllers to give you an idea of how they work, and then we'll cover off the other new props. So you can probably see some Coro presents here. They're literally just decorative to cover the enclosures underneath. So this larger one here has got a 240 volt box, distributing some 240 volt power to power supplies and the P5 tune to sign, and then above that is a 12 volt PSU, which is powering the likes of the arches and the Coro stars, and a little bit of the Coro presents as well. Under this box here though is a 5 volt power supply, so I just bring that up. Here's one we prepared earlier. So this is just a example of some of the boxes that I'm using elsewhere in the display, but this one I can easily get to. So this is a 5 volt power supply which has fusing for the power injection leads, but there's also a differential expansion, one of the dumb boards if you like, with the blue Cat6 cable that runs to that from the main controller, which is up on the porch, which we'll cover off in a second. So I'm running 4 of these boxes. So this box here is running a lot of the props that are on the lawn, so the Coro boxes, the stars, the arches, and the candy canes are all being given their data from this box here. There's another box that's up hidden behind the left peak of the roof, which is powering the left side of the roofing props. There's another one over on the right side of the roof, which is which is giving data to the right side of the roof props, as well as the outlines, the garage outlines, and the right column there. So speaking of columns, maybe we'll cover those off. So these are new this year. There's 4 of them. So there's 432 5-volt pixel nodes in each of these, times 4, so that gives us 1728 pixels just in the columns alone. And they've worked pretty well this year. I probably need to work on power injection a little bit more, because some of the bright whites that I put on them start to go a little orange in patches, so I just need to even up the power injection on them a little bit more. But they're made of this plastic material. You can just push in the nodes and then zip tie a few of them together. They're put together on an electrical conduit frame, and then they're zip tied to brick crabs, which are an awesome little tool to use to secure props to brickwork that you don't have to do permanently. Down the bottom, these ones that are in the grass, I've staked them down the bottom and cable tie them so they don't fly away in the wind. I'll show another example here. With this one, we've had to navigate around a downpipe, so I've had to use a few more brick crabs in order to keep it tied into position. But since doing it in this configuration, it looks a bit janky, but again, with the strong winds, it really hasn't moved anywhere at all. So pretty happy with how that's worked. It just means at the end of the season, just snip a few cable ties and then they can be packed away pretty quickly and easily. While we're up on the porch here, I'll go through a few more props. So the old favourites, the singing faces, which I made a few years ago. These are kind of a rear projection method. These have got the same 12-volt modules as the stars that are on the front lawn. And in the Coro Presents, the faces, there's Santa, there's 56 nodes in him, and in Rudolph he's got 67. So they're bright when it's dark. During the day you can basically not really see them because it kind of uses that rear projection method, but they really do work quite well, rather than just the I guess more traditional singing faces, which is just a bunch of nodes outlines. This gives a bit more of a 3D filled out effect rather than just seeing individual dots. It's the entire plane of that front surface is coloured in light, which I think is pretty neat. These stars, I used to have 4. They just used to be 1 on each of the brick columns, but now that they're covered in those new pixel matrices, I've just added in 2 more stars, and it's given a little bit more light fill around the front door there. So again, they're just 5-volt pixels, 10 nodes in each, so you do the math. And then under this present here at the front door is where the main controller sits. It's a Falcon F16 V3 this year. We've upgraded. Remove the cover. So on the bottom is just a 12-volt power supply, which is helping to power the singing faces, and I think there's some power running out to the Coro Presents at the front, but it's also powering this main board as well. So this is the Falcon F16 V3. I was previously running on V2, but just decided to update to V3, which has a bit more flexibility with the amount of pixels it can run per output. Plus it meant that if there was an issue with this one, I can fall back onto the V2 if need be. You can see this extra breakout board is the differential expansion board with 4 Cat6 cables running off to the other receivers. One I showed you before in the front lawn, and then the other 3 going up to the roof for their various props that they're providing data to as well. Not using the DMX serial output this year. I have previously to run some small moving heads, but not doing that this year. just because couldn't be bothered. While we're up on the porch, some new props again this year are the Merry Christmas lights letters. So there's 618 pixels across all of these, each letter cut out individually, and then what I've done is using some aluminium C-channel, just create a bit of a frame on the back that they can all be connected to, using some electrical conduit as a bit of a standoff so that there's plenty of clearance for the wiring of the nodes on the back. And then I've just used some cut down tomato plant stakes into the ground, cable tied to those to hold it in place. And again, with the winds that we've been having, they haven't moved a muscle. They're a bit protected by the house, of course, but even still, they haven't gone anywhere. So they've been I've really enjoyed this the prop, because it's a lot more dense than the old Merry Xmas homemade Coro sign that I used to have. With over 600 pixels here, you can get some nice definition of whole house effects that are going across these. Again, I've got to work on some power injection. These are 5 volt again, but there's some yellowing on some of those letters, so I've got to fix that up too. Quickly, this matrix has been in play for probably 4 or 5 seasons now. This is P10 panels. It's 5x5 panels, so 25 all up, and it's still working pretty well. I think there's only a couple of pixels that are starting to drop a couple of colors, but you generally don't notice it most of the time. It's only when the whole thing's lit up in one specific color that it's noticeable. So you can see the cable just dip off behind the underneath the roller door there, but inside here is where I'm going to insert a picture of what the show control central looks like. So that is a Raspberry Pi. I think it's a 3 Plus, I'll have to double check that, running FPP, and basically that is powered 24/7 all the way through December, which means I can tweak the show times, update sequences, etc. On the fly. I don't need to go and power up everything else around it, so it's always on. Next to that is a network switch, and there's one cable that goes up from the roof, you can see dropping down there, and it goes to my show network in the house, my home network. That basically is the internet connection to connect all my rest of my devices to, including Wi-Fi on my phone and tablets, etc. If I would come out to the front yard and control the show via the web page remotely from the front of the house. I don't need to be sitting in front of a computer to do so. And then all these other blue cables are going off to the various controllers throughout the display. So there's one going to the F16, of course, which is doing most of the heavy lifting. There's another one going to the Mega Tree. There's one going to the matrix, the panel matrix. I think they're the only controllers that I have now, because I have reduced a couple of the controllers and sort of consolidated a bit more onto the to the F16. And the only other cables you can see running around are just sort of spare ones, just in case. So now if we have a look back onto the rest of the roof, so around the garage outline again is just 5 volt pixel nodes. So there's 176 that cover the entire garage across the top and down the sides. And just for those who are interested, this is a chroma trim. Just pop the pixels into those holes and then cable tie that to some electrical conduit, and then the electrical conduit itself I have cable tied to a cable tie mount, which is siliconed onto the brickwork. And this is the same concept used up on the roof as well. I'll quickly pop in a visual here just to give you a bit of an idea of what's happening up there, but exactly the same sort of thing. The ones at the top, I'm just using some of those, I think they're called saddles, where it just hooks onto the conduit, and I just screw that into place temporarily for the season. So that's that. Again, the gutters have the same solution, but instead of to cable tie mounts, the cable ties themselves go through the overflow slots in our guttering. Now, not everyone has that luxury, but I do, so that means I can use it for that. So then at the top, new prop this year is one of there's one of two new stars. They have 150 pixels in that, again 5-volt nodes. One power data cable goes to it, and the way that it's been managed, it's actually going pretty well. I don't need to do any extra power injection for those, so pretty happy with them. Next to them, the new roof props are the sleigh and the reindeer. So the sleigh itself has 179 5-volt nodes plugged into it, and the deer have 119 nodes each as well. Painted them up in the off season so that when they're up there during the day, as you can see, they kind of look a bit nicer and more festive than just a plain white cutout. I'm pretty happy with how they've come out, and you can just kind of see from where I am, but all the roof line has the 5-volt nodes and the chroma trim. The roof line itself, the gutters, has 325 that go all the way across, and the roof has another 404, so there's 729 nodes up on the roof. So I think that pretty much covers all of the display for this year. If you've got any questions, by all means drop them into the comments below, and I'm happy to answer them where I can. Of course, if you're interested in getting to the hobby, I encourage you to visit ozchristmaslighting.com and download the 101 manual, which is a fantastic resource into getting into this hobby, which is where I've learnt everything how to do what you see in this video. So thanks very much for watching, and catch you on the next video.